I'm Diane Hall with AARP Missouri, and I'd like to welcome you to our second Yoga for All class, part of AARP Missouri's Moving It Fitness series. Now, this class is suitable for many levels of fitness. However, you should have received some cautions and guidelines in the reminder about this class. Please adhere to those guidelines. If you have any concerns, check with your doctor before participating. AARP Missouri also offers other classes. We've got Forever Fit, Zumba Light. We have links to some past programs like Tai Chi that you can participate in from the recordings. All of our programming is created with people age 50 plus in mind, but it's good for anybody of any age and with the marvel of the internet, anywhere. To learn more about the opportunities that we have, go to aarp.org/movingit. You'll also find information about our new sweepstakes for a Fitbit Versa 3 and other prizes. If you haven't signed up, do it today before you forget. Now, AARP realizes that our fitness series like Yoga for All can be great options for anyone who may not be able to attend a conventional fitness class, like caregivers, or for those of you who are staying home to reduce your risks during the pandemic. Congratulations to those of you who just said you got vaccinated, though. AARP has other resources for caregivers, including up-to-date COVID-19 information and technology information on our website at aarp.org/nearyou. Now, if this is your first time with an AARP fitness class, make sure that your Zoom is set up for success. First, you got to make sure that you've got Tyler Furguson, our instructor, pinned. That way she'll stay on your screen throughout our class and you can follow all her moves and instructions. You can pin Tyler by clicking on her Hollywood Square radio feed thing. Wait. Yay, there she is. Yeah, there are three. If you put your mouse over that, you'll see three little dots. Click on those three little dots and it'll give you a little menu and you can click on it. Where she will stay right there in front of you. One more thing that would really help us out, you put yourself on mute until the class ends when Tyler starts to answer any questions that you have. All right, now let's get started with Yoga for All. Again, our instructor is Tyler Furguson from Caliente Fitness. Tyler, take it away.
Thank you, Diane. Hi, everybody. Good morning. Happy St. Patrick's Day to you. I'm so glad to have you here for the practice. A couple real quick announcements. Last week, we talked about your neck and looking at the screen while you're doing your yoga practice. So at home, it's okay for you to change your orientation to the screen as you're doing class. I want to make sure that your neck is comfortable and you get used to listening to the cues. Try not to watch the class the whole time. Maybe gaze at the screen to see what I'm doing so you understand, and then try to listen to the cues so you can keep your neck in a better alignment. And then if you're new to class this week, if you watch last week's class, there's a lot of announcements on why yoga is for you and how to make it fit for you. Next week, I'm going to cue the yoga strap in class, but you don't need to go out and buy a yoga strap. You can just use a hand towel or a dish towel or a necktie or a belt. But the way that we'll be using the strap is hooking it on the bottom of our feet to make our arms longer. And then we'll be getting some stretches in this way. So next week, bring your straps or your towels to class, but it's not necessary to buy anything new. Now, the way class is going to happen is we're going to start with our grounding and our breathing exercises. Breathing exercises is pranayama, and it is beneficial to think about how you breathe and increase the efficiency of your breath and the intake of your air and slowing down your breath. We'll move into our poses, our shapes, or our asana. And then at the end of class, we'll have final relaxation where we'll come to stillness on the mat, our Shavasana. Now, I will continue to talk to you through Shavasana, but if you look at my screen, it'll look like it's frozen. And then there's a moment when we'll be quiet for about a minute or two together, and then you'll really think that the screen is frozen, but it's okay. We're just coming to Shavasana, and then I'll use my voice to guide you out. Okay, let's get started. We'll begin today on our backs for our grounding and our breathing. Coming to your back on the mat. For some, it might feel best if your knees stay bent and your feet are on the ground. That'll feel better in your low back. Take your hands and place them on your hips and see if you can rotate your pelvis forward. So notice there's an arch in my back when my pelvis rotates forward. And then I'm going to rotate my pelvis back And then notice that arch flattens out into the ground. So continue to just explore your tilts of the pelvis. And then if you were with me in mobility class, you'll recognize this as just taking our lumbar spine from sassy to casual. So as you get that little low massage in your back and feel the pelvis move back and forth, try to come to something that feels neutral. By neutral, I mean there's still a bit of an arch in your back. So go ahead and feel, you can slide, you can maybe put a ruler under that arch in your back. And then moving above the arch towards the back of your head, feel your back ribs. Notice if you can press your back ribs into the mat. Feel that stability. From here, allow the legs to lengthen long. And when they do, notice if you lose the arch in your back. If you do, or you get any pain or a big arch, simply bend the knees again. Otherwise, with the legs long, bring the arms out to the sides. Your eye gaze will be up to the ceiling. Close your eyes and just bring your awareness to your breath. Closing your mouth, inhale through the nose. Fill up in the torso. And exhale back out of your nose. Continue inhaling and exhaling through the nose. And then noticing on your inhale, feeling your lungs expand in all directions like a balloon. On your next inhale, notice the belly, the low belly rises. Maybe you feel the side ribs expand. Maybe you can even feel the back ribs press into the mat when you expand on your inhale. And then on your exhale, that expansion contracts to the midline. Continue with these inhales and exhales. Part of this yoga practice is just to allow our minds to come to rest and to leave the past behind and to not race into the future, but to be here now. And if you find that you're thinking about your shopping list or what you're going to do after class, or if you're thinking about a conversation you had last night and you're not in the present, you can count the length of your inhales and exhales to help you arrive to the present moment. Counting your inhale, counting the length of your exhale, and being mindful that the length of your exhale is about as long or longer than the length of your inhale. This counting of the breath can be a nice mantra for you to use throughout class. And at any moment in class, when the mind begins to wander, if you wonder how long we're going to be in this pose or when class is going to be over, just gently nudge your mind to come back to the present, counting the length of your inhale and your exhale. Take one more round of breath here. And then open your eyes. Slide both of your heels toward your hips so that your feet are back down on the ground and your knees are pointing up to the air. Take your right leg and bring it in toward your chest or maybe over to your armpit and begin to feel some compression as you pull the right leg into your armpit. Your left leg can slide long if it feels okay in your low back. If you feel that you get a big arch in your low back when the left leg slides long, you can just simply bend the knee again. Start to find some movement in the right knee that you pull into the chest. So maybe pretend like your upper thigh is a big spoon and you're stirring a big pot of stew. And you want to feel the femur head moving in your hip, slightly bringing it out to the outside of your body, down and away, across the midline and in your body. And this should just feel intuitive to you. Whatever sensations feel good, pause, and then see if you can take your circle in the other direction. And then noticing the little stretches you get in your shoulders, the benefit of this. Make sure your head is nice and relaxed, your spine is long. And then pause after your circle. Bring your knee into your armpit or your chest one more time, and then straighten out that leg. Push your heel or the bottom of the foot up to the ceiling, lengthening the space between or behind your hamstrings. Next week, we'll use the belts and take our stretch a little bit deeper. This week, just find some movement in your ankles, making some circles and some points and flexes, and notice how the movement of the ankle changes how the hamstring feels. Bring the knee back into the chest one more time. Your right knee is in your chest. Grab it with your left hand. So put your left hand on top of the right knee. Take your right arm and bring it out to a T on the ground. Now start to pull your right leg over your left leg, over to the left side of the mat for a supine spinal twist. And you can roll onto the outside edge of your left leg. Your piggy toe can be down, but try to keep your arm, your right arm extended out to the side behind you. So the shoulder is on the ground, the arm is on the ground. And you're getting a big rotation in the thoracic spine and some twist in the lumbar spine. Now your eye gaze, as long as your head is on the ground, your eye gaze can be in the direction of the knee. You can look up at the ceiling, or you can even take your eye gaze and look toward the fingers of the arm that you have extended, your right arm. Breathe into this twist. And then bring the knee back up to center. Roll back onto your back. Give yourself one more hug. And then put your right foot down on the ground, but don't slide it long. Just keep the right foot on the ground, knee up to the ceiling. Slide the left foot in. Bring the left knee into the chest or into the left armpit. Take a moment to feel this deep compression in the left hip. And then, if you wish, you can slide your right leg long if you want more space in this stretch. Continue to be mindful of the low back, feeling that slight curve in the low back and feeling the back ribs on the ground. Start to take some circles with the left femur head, using both hands on the knee, or if you want, you can just use one hand on the knee. Whatever just feels intuitive and natural and organic to you. Take your circles in the other direction. We're just getting some movement in the hip joint. So what we really want to feel is the femur head moving around in the hip joint. Continue breathing here, just like we did in the beginning of a class, and then come to stillness. Extend the left leg so that the bottom of the foot reaches up to the ceiling. And then you can, if you have to have a little bend in the knee, the hamstrings aren't quite ready for that, that's fine. If when you did that, the low back talked to you, remember you always have the option of pulling that right foot in. And then start to work the left ankle, pointing and flexing, finding some circles in the left ankle. Spread your toes wide as you work the ankle and feel the muscles in the footwork as you make an effort to spread the toes wide. Pull the left knee back into the chest. Put your right hand on your left knee and take your left arm out like a T. Start to draw your left knee over the midline, over your right leg, moving into a spinal twist on the opposite side. Try to keep your left shoulder relaxed and your left arm down to the ground. You'll notice when you pull over that your right leg may have rolled to the outside of the leg and your piggy toe might be touching or the blade edge of your foot. That's fine. Now let's move up to the neck. You might be looking at the ceiling right now. You might be looking over in the direction towards your knee. That might feel better. Or for a super duper twist, you can take your gaze over and look at the fingertips of the arm that you left behind. Notice if you're fighting this pose, see if you can surrender and relax to this pose. Take a breath into it. And then bring your left knee back up to the midline. Pull it into the chest one more time. This is called single wind relieving pose. And then keeping the left knee in, slide the right heel in and bring the right leg in. So now the hands are going to bind on the shins, or if you don't have the space, you can bind on the hamstrings. Take your eye gaze up to the ceiling. Try to not look at the screen. Tuck your chin into your chest, lift your head, and start to peel your shoulders up off the mat if that feels good. And give yourself a big squeeze. This is called tiny ball. So make yourself into the tiniest little ball, and then release. Let the legs extend long. Let the arms reach overhead, but on the mat, and extend long overhead. Reach long, long, long through the left arm and left leg. Longer on the left side. Breathe into that. Now reach long, long, long on the right arm and the right leg. Breathe into that. And then let's move into our Superman or our banana shape. So our hands, both hands, are going to go off of the left side of the mat. Our shoulders and our head might travel with it a little bit. And then walk both feet over to the left side of the mat. So our body is like a banana. Your right side should feel nice and long. Breathe into the right side of your body. Enjoy that length, the space that you're creating between the rib cage and the pelvis. Fill up your vessel, your torso, fill up completely, exhale it out. And then walk the hands and the head back to center on the mat, feet too. Pause for a moment, just get neutral and square. And then take your Superman shape the other direction. Both feet walk off the mat, both hands, your head and your shoulders go over to the right. That's what I mean to say. They go to the right side of the mat. And then notice the space and the length that you get in the left side of the body. Now, if this is tough on your shoulders, you have a shoulder injury, the arms don't have to go overhead. They can just go out like a T. So make sure your shoulders are in such a way that you're not feeling pain. You want to be able to breathe deeply into these shapes. So let the breath be your coach. If you can't breathe in a shape, it's possible that you're not in the right shape for you. Walk your feet back. Walk your head and chest back. And then bring the feet onto the ground one final time. Pull the knees into the chest and roll over onto your side in your Shavasana V shape. And take the top arm and press yourself up to seated. We'll begin our seated series. And if you have a blanket or some pillows or something to elevate your hips, feel free to set those up right now. And then in that lying down series, you may have been looking over at your side, but for the seated series, you can look right at the screen. If it's comfortable to crisscross applesauce your legs, go ahead and do that. And if you would like to just sit up on a table or a chair right now, that's fine too. From your seated position, just rock back and forth until you can feel your sits bones make a connection into the mat. And if you're not quite sure about your sits bones, take the flesh and peel it up. Just pull it away, peel the flesh away, and feel those bones, the bottom of your pelvis, those little bones right at the bottom, feel those pressed down into the mat. And it's likely that your shoulders are probably stacked right above those bones. See if you can push the bones down or maybe draw them together a little bit. You might feel your lower abdominal muscles come on when you try to pull those bones together. We know you can't move the bones, but you're contracting the muscles. And that could be an engagement of your pelvic floor, which is helpful in this practice. So keep slightly drawing those bones together. You don't want to give me 100% here, just slightly draw the bones together and then lengthen up through the spine. So imagine your body right now like a zipper. And if I want to get long in the spine, if I only use one hand to operate a zipper, it's really hard to get any tension in the zipper. So that bottom hand that pulls the tension in the jacket so we can zip, that's the feeling that I want you to take here. Sits bones going down, spine going up like the top of the zipper, crown of the head reaches long, hands can rest right on the thighs. Finding the engagement of the sits bones, and then there's a space right here where your rib cage is. See if you can kind of knit the ribs together a little bit. Just pull them in and knit it. Feel those core muscles turn on. Well done, my friends. Let's float the arms up on the breath. Inhale the arms up. Pause if you have shoulder injuries. Otherwise, reach higher up above head. And exhale the arms down. Good. Now I want you to use your length of your breath. So as you inhale the arms up, try to make the rise of the arms equal to the length of your breath, not mine. And then on your exhale, make the length of your exhale match you bringing your arms down. Well done, my friends. One more time, inhale it up. Let's all meet with our arms overhead. If it feels comfortable in your shoulders, you can take this hand bind where my pointer fingers are together and my other fingers are locked, and then squeeze my biceps to my ears. That might not feel great in your shoulders. If it doesn't, just simply bring the elbows as wide or narrow as you want and take your bind here. I'm going to cue it from here. And then begin whatever hand bind you take. If you can't bring your shoulders overhead, you just keep your arms right here. Okay, so we have 3 options for the arms. You're just pulling your rib cage up out of your pelvic bowl, doing these little gentle tick-tocks. So we're fighting gravity here. We want to create length. Think about what gravity does to the body, how it shortens it and compresses it and brings it in. And we want to fight that gravity. Good. Let's release the bind here. Take one arm, put it down on the ground. Opposite arm lengthens, but as the opposite arm goes up, keep that sit bone down, keep that knee down, lengthen up, and exhale over. The hand that's down on the ground, that elbow can bend to accommodate the stretch. And then notice if your chest is starting to rotate and close. See if you can open up the armpit of the top arm and rotate it so you're moving the rib cage open on this lateral side bend. Breathe, breathe, breathe here. Always breathe in your shapes. One more round of breath. And then exhale your hand down to the opposite side. Plant it down on the ground. Inhale, opposite arm up. Lengthen. Create length. Pull the rib cage away from the pelvic floor, but keep the sits bones down. And then go up and over in your lateral side bend. The knee of the arm that's overhead stays away. You don't pull the knee up with it. The sit bone stays down. Open up your chest and ribs to the screen. Reach through that top arm as much as it feels okay in your shoulder. And breathe into the space that you created in the side rib on this side. One more round of breath here. And bring your arm down. The arm that you're bringing down, place behind you. So you start to feel some rotation in your trunk. Take your opposite arm and place it on the outside of your knee. So my right arm is behind me. My left hand is on my right knee. Inhale, lift up and lengthen the spine. And exhale, start to find some rotation. Now notice the desire to look in the direction you're going. Try not to let your eyes lead, but let your chest lead. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, rotate a little bit deeper toward the side wall. And then keep using your breath to find length and rotation, avoiding taking your eyes there right away. After you've arrived in your deepest rotation, now you can take your eye gaze and look over your back shoulder. Now you're getting that rotation in the cervical spine or the neck. This is a seated twist. Try to relax the hips and the thighs. Let the knees come down. Bring the shoulders out of the ears and keep breathing here. Bring your eye gaze back to neutral with your chest so your chin and nose are in line with your chest. And then exit your pose. Moving in and out of the poses are important for the mindfulness of this work, for the journey of observing exactly how you feel in a pose. Take our left hand and put it behind us, and our right hand and put it on the knee. This is our preparation. Now we inhale, lengthen through the spine. Exhale, find some rotation. We're moving slowly in the twist because we want to discover a few things. One, we want to make sure this is right for our body, that it feels okay. Keep lengthening and twisting. And two, if we're super mindful about it, we might be able to recruit more fiber. We might be able to throw more muscles at this pose and find a deeper experience in the pose as we slowly move into it. After you've arrived to your twist, take your eye gaze and look over your left shoulder, looking to the back of the room. Start to relax the shoulders from the ears. Notice if you have a lot of tension in your hips. See if you can let go there. Let the knees drop and fall away, but remain long in the spine. One more breath here. And then take your eye gaze back in line with your chest and bring yourself back to the front of the room. I'm going to spin around, but I don't want you to spin around. For our last pose, we're going to bring our arms behind our back. And if it feels comfortable to take that arm bind and intersect the fingers, that's great. If not, just bringing your arms back as much as you can. Have a soft bend in the elbows and begin to feel your heart lift. So you're lifting your chest, you're lifting up your heart. Bring your shoulders up and back. And then start to pull your hands down and away, lengthening through the arms a little bit. Maybe you can take your gaze and lift up. Breathe into that, and then release. Let's come off of our seats and move to tabletop position. You're welcome to keep a blanket under your knees if your knees get sore in tabletop position. Now, last week, a lot of people talked about their wrists and some of the soreness that you were feeling in tabletop. So we said we'd workshop this today. So when you come into your tabletop position, first of all, your knees are under your hips and you have space between your knees. You don't want the knees together. You want to have space. The hands or the wrists are under the shoulders. And you'll notice if you just allow all your weight to dump into your wrist, that's going to be a little painful. So what I'd like you to do is press into the fingertips and grip like you're gripping basketballs. And you'll notice your knuckles will start to come up off the floor and they might even turn white. Now, let the elbows bend out to the sides, but then sweep them back towards your knees and rotate them, find rotation. So see these creases in my elbow here? Notice when they bend out to the side, the creases face each other. But if I sweep the elbows back and turn them to the front of the room and pack my shoulders, maybe you feel your lats turn on. So we're having less weight in our hands and we're having our lats do a little bit more work. Now what you can do, practice this corkscrew and pack. That's what I call that, corkscrew and pack. You can remove one arm and see if you've turned on your lat muscle just by palpating that space right under the armpit. That's the muscle we're trying to turn on there. So let's find corkscrew and pack here. Slightly bend the elbows a little bit and pull your rib cage down to the ground for cow pose. Lift your eye gaze and lift your tail. From here, pull your belly button in, start to tuck your tail, draw your chin to your chest and round your spine up to the ceiling for cat pose. Moving into cow pose, slightly bend the elbows, pull the rib cage down to the floor and pull your heart forward. Pull it forward to the front of the mat. So the hands are energetically pulling down to the knees. Elbows are slightly bent. Now press the tops of the feet into the ground, push the belly button away, push the hands away and round into your cat pose. Try to do that just a couple more times. Cat and cow, moving with your breath. Inhale, cow. Exhale, cat. Feel your spine lengthen. Feel your spine articulate. And then come to neutral. Let's give the wrists a break for a second. Big toes come together, knees come nice and wide. Send your hips back to your heels. Bring your chest and your forehead down to the ground. If your forehead doesn't make it down to the ground, bring in a block or a blanket so you can relax your neck and so you can find relaxation in this pose. If your knees don't love this deep hip flexion, you can still find this pose by keeping your hips more stacked. You can look at the screen real quick. You can keep your hips more stacked. Some knees just don't love that deep flexion. And if neither one of these work for you, you can flip onto your back and bring your knees into your chest, which is how we started our class. Take a breath here. Walk your fingertips forward. Feel the stretch in the back body and the arms as you walk the fingertips forward. Press the fingertips into the ground. Press the tops of the feet into the ground. Notice your low belly turns on when you press the tops of the feet into the ground. Pull yourself up and reorganize your tabletop position here. We're going to move into spinal balance. So corkscrew and pack the arms, particularly the right shoulder. Pack that. Send the right leg long and push through the heel. Now, when you send the right leg long, you don't have to send it up because you lose all kinds of stuff in your spine. Just send it long, neutral spine. Now, what can happen is the hip can open up. So pull the right hip bone down to the floor, get your pelvis even. Re-corkscrew and pack the right arm. So feel your core working. Feel your lat working here. And then take your left arm, maybe reach it forward. If that doesn't feel great in the left arm, keep the left arm down for now and just work on extending through the right leg. Try to count your inhale and count your exhale here. Left hand comes down, right hand comes down. Take a break. One breath in child's pose. Inhale here. Exhale, pull yourself back up. Corkscrew and pack the arms. Organize your tabletop. Press your right shin into the ground. I forgot to cue this on the other side. And then lengthen your left leg back. As soon as the left leg goes back, corkscrew and pack the left arm more. Turn on your left lat. And then draw your left hip down to the floor, evening out your pelvis. Your gaze here is down to the mat. So if you're looking at the screen, once you've found your position, try to just look down to the mat, keeping your neck in alignment. You have the option of bringing your right arm forward as if you're shaking somebody's hand. So the thumb is up, fingers are spread wide. Go to your breath here. Count the length of your inhale. Count the length of your exhale. Pull your belly button away from the floor like there's a pitchfork under there. And then right hand goes down, left knee goes back down, send your hips back into child's pose. It's called Spinal Balance or Bird Dog. So that's a new one that we did today. Pulling yourself up out of child's pose, let's go right into our twist or thread the needle. Right hand goes behind the back of the head so that you open up your right rib cage, not your right shoulder. Take a little twist here, and then exhale. Thread your right arm behind your left wrist, hinge at the hips, bring your trunk down, bring your torso, bring your temple down to the mat, and start to find some twist in your back body. So here, take your right arm is threaded through. So from the fingertips to the shoulder of the right arm is one unit. Press it more into the mat. And notice if that helps you open up your left shoulder a little bit. You can take your left hand and put it in the small of your back. Getting a deeper twist here and this thread the needle. There's lots of different ways to cue the hands and get some sensation from the shape. If your left hand is in the small of the back, put it back in the crease of the right elbow, push into it, unthread the right arm. This time you don't have to put it behind your head, but be careful. This isn't about the shoulder, it's about the rib cage. So open up the rib cage, big twist, circle the right wrist, open up the fingers, give your wrists some love because you've been on your wrists, and then bring your right arm down. Take your left hand, plant it or place it on the back of your head, just to remind you to open up through the chest. Not about the shoulder here, it's about the chest. Find your rotation, this direction, and then take the hand off, thread and find your thread needle in the other direction. Reach, reach, reach. Threading your arm through as long as you can, hinging at the hips, placing the back of your shoulder on the ground and your temple on the ground. Find your activation in your left hand. Press the fingertips all the way to the shoulder, the whole length of the back of the arm, press it into the ground, and then place your right hand in the small of your back and open up your right shoulder. Breathe. Sometimes we hold our breath when we balance. Sometimes we hold our breath when we twist. Go back to your counts, inhales and exhales. And then remove your right hand from your back. Place it in the crease behind your left, crease of your left elbow. Press up, unthread the left arm. Open up here, be careful, be mindful that you're opening up the rib cage. And then take some circles with the wrists. You might hear some cracks and pops and gravel in the wrist. And work all of that business out. And then bring your left hand back down to the mat. Last week we did this little core priming exercise. So we're just going to start to fire up the core. So if you've done crunches before, this might feel a little bit like a crunch, or try to cultivate that sense of crunching in the front body. So you're going to lift your right knee and bring it toward your right elbow. If your wrists are killing you, let's bring the knee down. If your wrists are just killing you right now, you can go to fists for wrists. That's an option here. Or if you have weights to grab on, little dumbbells to grab on. Or if you can keep thinking about the basketball and the fingertips and keep the weight out of the wrist here and put it more in the fingers, that'll help. Okay, let's go. Right knee goes to right elbow, pause. Try to pull the knee into the chest, round through the back a little bit like you're crunching. Pull your belly button away from the floor and then put your right knee back down. Send the hips back a little bit, loaded child's pose. Pop up, corkscrew and pack, bam. Right knee goes to right tricep. Hold and pause. And then right knee goes down. Load it up again. Come up to tabletop. Right knee to the tricep. Can you get a little bit higher? Good. Right knee goes down. Now this time we're going to step. Hips go back. Drive right knee towards the elbow, but then step. And if your foot doesn't quite make it to the hand, that's okay. Grab your foot and get it right where you want it. Now pause here. Press your right hand into your right leg. I'm sorry, your right arm into your right leg, and your right leg into your arm. Okay, create that tension there, create that relationship. See if you can turn on your floor or your core, your low belly from that relationship. Now take your back foot and press the top of the foot into the ground and rise up into proposal pose. Bring your shoulders right over your hips. Keep pressing the shin and the top of your back foot into the ground, and notice how that'll turn on your glute, or turn on your glute in the back leg. Inhale the arms up over here, up in this orientation. Think about that downward energy. So we're going to take these tick-tocks, but you want to be able to stay stable. So you have to squeeze that back glute, push through that front heel to stabilize the low part of the body as you move in the upper part of the body. Good work, yogis. Yes, separate the hands. Bring the hands down to the floor. Plant the right hand inside the left leg. This time, curl your back toe and lift your back knee for a low runner's lunge. Now, for some, this can be a little uncomfortable in the back, and if you have books nearby, you could prop your hands up on the books. That might feel better. Or you can just come up to your fingertips. But know that that is an option for you. Otherwise, we're going to hang out in this low lunge, and you should be feeling a stretch in your heel and in your calf muscle right now. See if you can start to saw a little bit. So notice my back heel is coming up over my toes and then pushing back away. So I'm just sawing through my legs a little bit. My whole trunk is moving. So my shoulders move just slightly in front of my fingertips as my heel saws up, and then I move back. Let's plant the hands back down to the ground. If you're up in your fingertips, bring the knee back down, uncurl the toes, and bring the right foot back. We'll take the core exercises on the other side now. Hips go back, left knee, left tricep. Pause. Try to hollow out your front body. So you're trying to do a little crunch in your front body. Knee goes down. Second time, knee to tricep. Pause. Knee goes down. Little child's pose, and then knee to the tricep for the third time. Try to lift it higher the third time. And then knee goes down. Let's step this time. Loaded child's pose. Step to your low lunge. Press the left arm into the left leg and the left leg into the left arm. So feel the stability that you get there. You might feel your glute in the front turn on. Press the top of the right shin and top foot into the ground to rise up into proposal pose on this side. Feel the relationship between the front and the back leg. So I like to play this little game. You have a crease in the front leg here. So turn on that glute in the back leg and try to bring the back glute and this crease in this front leg together. Notice the stability you feel in the hips, the grounding that you feel when you try to bring those spaces together. Bring your arms up overhead. And then challenge the stability by taking these gentle tick-tocks. So you have that downward energy of the front quad, the glute to help stabilize it. Opening up the front of your back hip here, and then bringing the hands down to the ground. Curl your back toe and lift your back knee off the ground. If you have your books nearby, you can always put your hands on your books to bring the ground closer to you. And then depending on, you can have blocks too, depending on the books or the blocks, you can make them even higher or higher. The benefit of that is it allows us to straighten out the spine a little bit. If your hands are on the floor, some of us, we might feel really rounded in the spine. What we'd like to do is pull the heart forward, find length in the spine. Go ahead and find your saws and feel the length in your calf muscle. Feel length in your Achilles tendon as you push through the heel. And then notice the fascia in the bottom of the back foot might be getting a stretch. Bring your back knee down and your back foot to meet it. Now let's curl the toes, lift the hips, find downward facing dog here. Let your head hang heavy and look back at your toes. Draw your belly button in. Good. You can have a bend in your knees and your heels can be lifted. And you're trying to get your forearms in line with your ears. So maybe push your chest to your thighs a little bit, feeling free to bend your knees. Now remember, if you have glaucoma or blood pressure issues, your head's below your heart here, so come down to your hands and knees and just be in tabletop. Otherwise, walk your hands back into a forward fold. Your knees are going to stay bent. Feel the heels come down to the ground and drape your chest over your thighs. Let your head hang heavy. Breathing into this shape, your head is below your heart here, so make sure that this is a pose that's good for you. Now place your hands on your shins and start to move to half lift. So your back is going to get flat. The crown of your head reaches to the front of your mat. Your tail reaches to the back of your mat. The shoulders are down and in pack. Your shoulder blades are coming together. Inhale here. Exhale, slide your hands down to the floor and fold round in your spine. Let's flow this. Inhale, flatten your back. Crown of the head reaches to the front of the room. Back is flat. Exhale, fold and round. So notice the difference between flexion and flat back. Inhale, that's extension of the spine. Crown of the head reaches forward, and then exhale and fold. Pause here, place the weight in your heels, drop your booty a little bit, look forward, and bring your arms off the ground and push up and rise to standing. Move nice and slow. If you feel dizzy, just sit down. Don't force yourself to stand. Inhale your arms up overhead, reach, reach, reach. And then exhale your arms down to the sides, mountain pose or Tadasana. Let's inhale the shoulders up and open up and pack the shoulders. Strong Tadasana pose. Now can you slightly pull your feet toward one another, lighting up all your inner thigh muscles? Maybe squeeze your glutes a little bit. Pack the shoulders down, find this exhale, external rotation of the shoulders. Strong, strong, strong Tadasana. It's different than just standing there. Good. Now bring your hands to your hips. We did this on our back. We did a little bit of cashew and sassy, right? So when we move into forward fold, we want to make sure our spine, our pelvis tilts into sassy for our fold. So being mindful of that, inhale the arms up, bring the hands to prayer. Pull that prayer right in front and start to move into sassy. And you're going to fold over your thighs, but you want to make sure your pelvis rotates first. Bring your chest down to your thighs, plant your hands on the ground, and walk yourself out, maybe to a plank. Pause in this plank for a second or drop to your knees right when you feel like you want to drop to your knees. Otherwise, you can hang out on this plank with me. If you're in plank, draw the belly button away from the ground. Feel like there's a pitchfork under you. Now remember, you can drop to your knees at any moment. Tighten your glutes, pull your quad muscles to the bone and push through the heels, and then find that corkscrew and pack in your shoulders. Everybody come down to your knees, and then from here, flatten out the tops of your feet, start to bend your elbows and lower down into half plank. Pause when your rib cage hangs out right at your triceps. Inhale here, and then exhale, push your hips up, send your hips back, one child's pose here, and then come up to seated. So that was, you should feel your heart rate a little elevated from that work. Come to a seat, and then we'll make our way down to our back. Let your whole body come down, knees are bent, feet are on the ground, arms down to the sides. Press your hips up into the air. Your eye gaze is at the ceiling. Please don't look at the screen. You want your neck to be neutral, so just listen. With your hips up in the air, squeeze the glutes, open up the front of the hips, relax the shoulders. And then we talked about this little scapula tuck last week. Slightly roll under your right shoulder and then pull your left scapula under. Now roll over slightly under your left shoulder, pull your right scapula under, and then keep rocking back and forth until you can bring your scapula together in the midline and maybe bring your hands together. Keep looking at the ceiling and notice if that opens up or broadens your chest anymore. Give your glutes another squeeze, feel the hips open, the quads lengthen. Continue to breathe. And then if you've taken this little bind with your arms, release the bind, let the shoulder blades move away from each other, and bring your whole self down to the floor. Walk your feet wide and let both knees fall over to the left side. Bring your arms out to a T. And we're closing our practice. We're winding down now. So start to just cultivate a sense of letting go and a sense of softness. I like to call this pose the pose of observation. So notice any tingly feelings that you have from the work you've been doing. Slightly engage the belly, bring the knees back up to center, and let the knees fall over to the other side. Again, cultivating that sense of stillness, recovery, and letting go. Still scanning and taking in information how you feel in these different shapes and noticing the differences from one side of the body to the other. Engage low belly, bring the knees back up to center. And then allow the knees to stay stacked here. Maybe they fall into one another. Or we're going to transition into our final relaxation in Shavasana. If it feels good to you to send the legs long, send the legs long and relax. Make sure you have lots of space in the body. So space between each leg, and the arm should move away from the trunk. Perhaps close your eyes here. This is the part where the video might look like it's freezing, but just find stillness and calmness. Let go of counting your breath or being conscious about your breath. Allow it to become shallow. Allow your body to become heavy. Scan your body and notice if you're clenching or holding on to any muscles unnecessarily. There's no muscle you need to flex right now to stay safe. You're on the ground and you're supported. Soften your forehead. Soften your shoulders. Soften your fingers, inner thighs, quads. Soften your glutes. Release your ankles and your toes. We're going to stay here together as a community in stillness and quiet for a minute. And then I'll guide you out with my voice and we'll finish together and stick around for questions. Start to find some movement in the body as you begin to exit your Shavasana. You can take deeper inhales and exhales here and wiggle your fingers and your toes. Maybe make circles in your wrists and your ankles. Moving from your smallest joints and the extremities to the midline. Maybe bend the elbows and the knees. And eventually push yourself over onto your side, that Shavasana B shape that we took earlier in class. Pause for one moment here in Shavasana B with your head on your shoulder. And take a moment and think of something new that you learned today, or a new sensation that you felt, or something that felt good to you today. And press yourself up to a seat. Come to a comfortable seat. Sit nice and tall. Feel those sits bones connect with the earth again. And feel the crown of the head lengthen up and connect you to the sky. If you'd like to, you can bring your hands to this prayer shape or Anjali Mudra. It's a pleasure and an honor to share this practice with you. Thank you for joining me. Namaste.